Hello everybody, welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk. And today we've got 4 wonderful Bordeaux's. I'll tell you a little bit about my trip to Bordeaux, give you a little backstory about where the footage is, and sit down and taste some great wines. We've got a really powerhouse show today. I'm pretty darn pumped up. First though, correction time. Yesterday I mentioned that great years in the Loire Valley were 03 and 05. What I meant to say was 02 and 05. Actually, a viewer pointed that out for me, and that was really helpful. I appreciate it. I'm sorry the name slipped my mind. There's just a lot going on today. But I'll give you props tomorrow or something. Anyway, yes, so that is a correction. Loire Valley 02 and 05. 03 was, in fact, a hot vintage, and some of the minerality and the crispness and the acidity levels were a little bit shot. Number 2, for the little house cleaning effect today. Big congratulations to Steve K, who posted yesterday about perception and mentioned that he just had his child, and that was really amazing and a big deal. So let's all give a big shout out to Steve K. That's big news and that's exciting. Other than that, the t-shirt contest. If you don't know what this is, all you newer viewers, there's a link right above me. It says the Vaniac t-shirt contest. You need to read the rules. Chris Mott is available to answer any questions, and we're going to be giving away a sick prize, which is a trip to California for the weekend, and I think it's well worth it. I will be with you, and I'm pretty darn good company, if I can't say so myself. Other than that, you know what? We need some more juice in the forums from introducing people's selves. That's probably my favorite thing to read at night. And so tonight, because I actually might have a little time to read a little something, I want to see who else is out there. I love to introduce yourself. So let's put a link right over here, or it might be down here if you're watching this not today, to introduce yourself. Check that out. So let's get focused and let's get serious about what we're doing today. We're talking about Bordeaux, and obviously there's a lot of talk about Bordeaux. You saw a little clip yesterday. That weird wine that I was tasting, for anybody that was wondering, was an 1893 German Auslese. It was, or German Riesling, excuse me, it wasn't Auslese. It was very, very cooked and burnt and dead and tasted like gasoline oil mixed with poison juice. So it wasn't so pleasant. And but it was worth the experience. It didn't work out. The cork just didn't make it happen, but what do you expect for well over 100 years? Bordeaux was amazing. It was a tremendous trip. Once again, I know I talked about it a little bit yesterday, and today we are going to do 4 Bordeaux wines, one of which I had on my trip. And you may ask, why are we not doing wines that I had on the trip? And for the reality, the answer is we don't have most of them in stock, and we don't have them available to me. So we are bringing a lot of them in. It takes time to come from Europe, you know, so hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks we'll have a lot more of the wines that we actually had on the trip, on the show. We could talk about them. Also, we have about 12 to 15 hours worth of footage. I took one tape back with me. That was what you saw yesterday, one of the clips, but most of them are being FedExed over now because I did confirm that they were using the same exact video camera that we have on the trip, so that was kind of wild. That's why I told them not to put on DVD, because we'll take the tapes. So those tapes are on the way, and hopefully we'll be teasing you with more footage soon and compiling one master episode once some of the wines come. So you're going to have to be a little bit patient for some of the wines on the Bordeaux trip. But what I can tell you, and I'll give you a couple little spatterings, is for people that want to go and seek out wines now, if you're not that patient, which I can't blame you. If you are seeking out some really under-the-radar values, there's 2 wines on this trip that completely stunned me. One was the 2002 Chateau Montbusquet, which does have a 90-point Parker and sells for about $40 to $60 US. I thought it was really profound. It was a tremendous effort and something I'm trying to secure more cases of, which is a little bit difficult. And the other was a real sleeper, was a 1990 Chateau Grand Maine. 1999, did I say 90? 1999 Chateau Grand Maine. Again, a 90-point Saint-Emilion, which sells for about $50 to $60 in the US. The way it's drinking right now, the elegance, and 99 is a tricky year a little bit on the Saint-Emilion right bank side. However, this wine was spectacular, blew me away. Another one that scored 90 points Parker that is definitely worth seeking out under $60. Hopefully we'll secure some of that. We're working on that as well. Hopefully my competitors and other stores around and restaurants in the country are watching this and going to go get it, and I'm not going to end up with any. But we're trying to work on those 2 wines. There was also one wine that was a huge sleeper, which I have secured at this point. We'll have in 6 to 8 weeks. Very interesting it's going to be to see the American public, because this wine scored 85 points, Robert Parker, and it's about $65, $70. It's an 88 Chateau Bayshore Bacot. It blew my pants off, and in a good way, and it was just really, really spectacular, and we'll be bringing that in a little bit older, about a 20-year Bordeaux. It'll be fun to see if people are willing to trust their own palates and to try wines and not just go on Parker's 85 points, because heck, 85 points Parker for a $70 older wine is not something people are going to run and scream to get. So that's a little overview about some of the interesting wines. Let's get into the wines today. We'll talk a little bit about Bordeaux even a little bit more as we go along, and what I'm showing you first is what I think is a classic example. I have had this wine in the past, just not on this trip. A classic example of what I saw more than anything else in Bordeaux, which is there's so many profound, excellent wines under $25 in the region. But again, Bordeaux has such a brand of being expensive that a lot of people don't realize it. This is the Chateau Bernado 2003 Haute Medoc. Now this is really interesting. It's 90 points Robert Parker and Wine Spectator, so consistently great ratings. 57% Cabernet, 41% Merlot, 2% Cab Franc. Again, 90 points Spectator and Parker, and it's only $19 US, which is a spectacular price for a Bordeaux with that kind of scoring. Let's see what's going on here. We got some nice color. I brought out the big glass today for fun. I get probably 7 to 10 emails a day every time we do this glass. I have some bad news. I have no idea where this glass came from. I know it was sent to me. I don't remember how I got it. It's got a little B and V initial on it. That's all I can really give you. And that's that, so I apologize. It stinks. Anyway, 03 is a very hot vintage in Bordeaux. I call it the kangaroo vintage in Bordeaux. I don't know if the wines are going to last as much as the traditionally profound Bordeauxs. I find it to be a little bit too hot and over the ripe fruit in some Bordeauxs. However, it's a very exciting and crowd-pleasing vintage. So, once again, 03 Bernado. Maybe I should have smelt it first. That's what I tend to do. Now I've already got a little mixed up now. What's really nice about this on the nose, and I'm going to predict is also on the mouthfeel and on the palate and taste, is a tremendous cedar box mixed with broccoli flavor profile. This is very earthy, but very structured and very smooth. What else I smell on the nose, and I'm going to predict might also be on the palate when you taste it, or when I taste it, is a really interesting sour cherry flavor, which is very interestingly lingering on the nose as you go away. I'm going to predict that when you taste the wine, it's also going to really last on the finish for a long, long time. Even after a while, even maybe after a minute when you're explaining other things, you'll still be tasting that sour cherry flavor. Let's give it a whirl. And as you can see, no spit on that one. And I gotta be honest with you, it was just really coming down to the enormity of the silkiness on the flavor profile. This is not a fruit bomb. This is very, very, very driven on sour cherry, almost like dirty gravel flavors coming through. I get a hint of cedar box, but a pepper that is trying to act spicy, but you clown on it. You know, you're like, and you know it's supposed to be spicy, you bite it, and it thinks it's spicy, and your friends think it's spicy, but you really can enjoy spices, and you like hot foods, and you kind of like poo-poo it, like, come on, are you kidding me? Give me something really spicy. I'm getting that kind of pepper flavor on the finish. It's a really nice bottle of wine. I really like it. I'm going to have to concur with the other two big critics. Not that I'm a big critic, but you know, the two big critics in the wine world, Parker and Spectator, both 90. I'm going to join it and make it a hat trick. I'm going to go 90 points in this wine. I find it to be a steal at 19 bucks, but be aware, if you're looking for strawberries and blackberries and all that fun stuff, you will not find it in this house. So don't even open the door. Let's move on. This is the Chateau Laviel Cure Fronsac 2000 vintage. 90 points Robert Parker, $25 US. And what I love about this, now this is I don't know the exact blend, but I know that this Fronsac is a predominant Merlot. I would say the 80 percentile. And so what I really like about Fronsac is two things. One, once again, to the theme of what I've been talking about, is Fronsac, because it's not as branded as some of the parts of Bordeaux, tend to not command as much dollars and as are not as quite as expensive in the U.S. market. So for 25 bones for 90 points Parker, again, a great example. Plus, this is a 2000 vintage, and it's $25 now. It's probably even like 17, 18 bucks on release. This has been a really fun wine. As you know, 2000 is a classic vintage. I mean, in this era, it's going to only look down to below 2005 at this point, barring what happens in the future. But at this point, it's really just below 2005. And probably above 96 and 95 for that matter. Probably below 90 to me, but 2000 is a profound vintage. $25. Francec's very interesting. Before the 19th century, so, you know, before the 19th century, Francec was one of the most sought after areas in all of Bordeaux. And that really tells you the swing of things. Another thing I learned about Bordeaux is it was interesting to see how much, you know, certain wines commanded back in the day. I mean, there's certain areas, Côte de Blaye, for example, that commanded similar prices to Chateau Palmer and Margaux in the 1940s, and now are $10, $12 wines, while Palmer's $150, $200 wines, and most of Margaux's are. Again, same thing with Sauternes. Dozy Vidrines used to sell for more than Cheval Blanc. Cheval Blanc's now a $700 bottle of wine. Dozy Vidrine is $45 bottle wine. That's a Sauterne. So what I mean by that is that Bordeaux is very intriguing, and maybe the whole world of wine goes this way, because over 50 or 60 years, the entire pricing structure and the demand and the hype of wines have changed. And so that's why you need to not close your mind to certain areas, because let's be honest, if we jumped on with Michael J. Fox right now and went back 70 years, this Francec would probably command more prestige, or actually this Francec you'd have to go even further back, a couple hundred years, but would have more prestige and more excitement behind it and command a higher price point than even wines like Chateau de Cam and some of the first grows. I mean, it's just about the timing and the marketing of things. So on a whole scale about wine, don't close your eyes to areas that are unknown. Portugal, Greece, South Africa, because before you know it, your grandkids are going to be paying way more than for things from Napa Valley and from Bordeaux. So, 25 bones, let's give it a whirl. Real dark, great color, and just a ripping nose. I mean, blows the Bernado nose out of this room. As a matter of fact, God, I don't want to do this to a 90-point wine, but we're going to just scoot this. Is this off screen yet? Yeah, okay, let's get it off screen, because this nose is just rocking with strawberries, a little hint of pepper. Yeah, this is one of those classic, you know, strawberry with the pepper on it. This is really, really lively and has a lot going on in the nose. The setup of the nose allow this wine to under-deliver a little bit on the palate. However, it's a little bit more of a mouthfeel than the Bernado. It's got a really nice licorice, black pure licorice, almost like melted licorice to a syrup, and then take a cherry and dip it in it and bite it. That actually sounds pretty good. That's what's really going on there. Great mouthfeel, nice silkiness. Finishes a little short where the Bernado kept going on. That's a little distressing. I'm going to go 89 plus points on this. I think it's right on the cusp of 90-point wine. I love the mouthfeel. There's a lot of people, and if you find yourself liking Napa Valley Cabs or Barossa Shiraz, I think you'll even like this more than the Bernado. Not for me for at this moment, but a really, really nice, polished is the word I'm looking for, Bordeaux. And I can easily, you know, if I was a little bit of a better mood, because right now, I'll be honest with you, I am so worried about the Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys that was just announced yesterday. I don't know if you know, but huge news. And you know what? And Pennington's going to go back, and he's going to pass. Oh, that was perfect, too. I came through. We're going to win 44-3, Cowboy fans. I'm sorry. Deal with it now. Your Thanksgiving is going to be ruined. I know I'm going off the track, but I'm a little bit worried. And I was going to say, this is an 89 plus, but maybe if the Jets weren't announced to play the Cowboys this upcoming Thanksgiving, this would be a 90, because there's at least a half a point there in my mind that's just too much worrying about that game. I mean, it's going to be huge. And if I'm going to ruin Thanksgiving at my mom's house, she's going to be upset. And so that's really, really my fear. Let's move on. Chateau Cantenac, 1996, 90 points wine spectator. $80 US now. Again, upon release was probably in the $30 to $40 range, maybe even less. And again, if that's not a story that I want to tell you about with 2005s, there's no better version. 1996, a very good vintage, very profound vintage, especially in the left bank, Mondotte area. I mean, it's great. However, it is not even in the same world as 2005. And so I know a lot of people want to know what I think about 04, 05, 06. I've been screaming about buying 05s. When I was there, it was even more eye-opening. The the explosion of the Asian market, the fact that certain negotiants were looking to rebuy my stock that we're selling here now for more than we're selling it for retail. 2005 is a real big deal. And this 1996 Brain Cantenac is probably a nice little, I don't know, segue into why I think so. Again, this was probably a $25 to $30 wine. Today it's $80, and it's a 90-point spectator from the 96 vintage. There's just a worldwide demand in Bordeaux. The wines last long and are profound, and that's a really important thing about Bordeaux, and really interesting, and it's just why I'm recommending 2005. Not only are they the greatest wines, young wines I've ever tasted in my life, as confirmed on this trip, but the pricing is just going to go through the roof, and it'll make me look good if I recommend to people to buy them. 70% Cabernet, 15% Merlot, 13% Cab Franc. Let's give it a whirl. Really nice color. And this is where old Bordeaux, and this is not old, but older Bordeaux gets fun. The nose is so intriguing and so classic Bordeaux. To me, I'm getting a really interesting mix between weeds and shrubs and kind of like sticks in a forest, mixed in with a really intriguing hint of fungus. Let's call it mushrooms. Getting some dirty, sweaty socks too. And I'm talking about like the sweaty socks. Like, have you ever seen a quad in a college room where you have 4 slobs and nobody washed their clothes for like 3 months? That smell? That's what you get out of here. And so you're missing your college days. This is definitely a wine worth searching out. Did I mention there's a nice little hint of raspberry in there as well? That kind of coats it all and makes it a little bit more palatable. Let's give it a whirl. Wow. Big time story. I think we have... Do we have it on tape? We may have this on tape. I visited Chateau Brain Cantenac on this trip. That we definitely have on tape. We had a wonderful lunch there with Henry, the owner of Brain Cantenac. They put 3 wines in front of me and asked me to guess what vintages they were. One of the wines that they put in front of me was this wine. Luckily, I tasted this wine at our super tasting, and more importantly, when I tasted it, I kind of just saw the structure and the heavy Cabernet feel. And then, of course, you got to use a little of your brain. What would they show me? And I guessed 96. Thought it was 96. I was correct, and I looked cool in front of the owner. Then they gave me another glass, and I tasted it. It was a little bit lighter, looked a little older by the color. It was a little more perfumed, a little more classic Bordeaux, a little more classic Claret. I said 85 or 88. Sure enough, it was the 85 vintage. After this big showing, I asked for a huge discount so I could pass it on to the maniacs around the world, and they said no. So you see, sometimes having a great palate gets you nowhere. But it was fun, and I looked cool in front of him, and it's fun to taste this wine again, now on U.S. soil. It's still ringing with that tremendous backbone and structure, great chocolate, terroir-driven flavors. When I say terroir-driven flavors, of course, I use that slang that Julius hates, but what I mean by that is really dirty flavors, so maybe I shouldn't use that term anymore, because Julius is going to punch me. I think Julius is going to punch me. So let's go with really dirty, earthy tones. Let's throw a couple of worm heads in there. And you know what? Let's throw a centipede in there. Just for kicks and giggles. Because you know what? It's one of the great Atari games of all time. You know what I'm talking about. So, really earthy tones. If you love the fruit, get out of here. This is a vegetable garden, but it's very structured. It's really profound. Great with food. I mean, come on. This is really, really a well-oiled machine. Now, I got real excited for a wine that I'm going to score 91 points for. But, there's just something about the charisma of an older Bordeaux. And, here's where I get real excited. This wine will last for another 15 to 25 years. And again, as, the correction of financial markets, inflation, the times go on, these wines get better and better value driven, and there's plenty of people who are watching Wine Library TV right now that have this wine in their cellar for $25 on futures. Don't you think that they feel fantastic right now? 91 points. Let's move on. And finally, super duper treat time. It's super duper treat time. We are going to taste a ridiculous bottle of wine, something that is so sought after and profoundly chased by every wine collector that I know. This is the 2003 Bellevue Mondotte, and this is a Saint-Emilion Grand Cru, a 90% Merlot, 5% Cabernet, 5% Cab Franc. It is $185 a bottle on sale. And it comes from Gerard Purse, who, does Montbusquet and Pavie McKean and Chateau Pavie and is, not Pavie, but yeah. And so he is obviously a master. He's been bringing some of the great Bordeaux in the world. This wine is scored. This is fun. You see this? It was fun. That was fun. This wine is scored 98 points by Robert Parker. Again, it's a 5-acre estate, very small, only 4,000 bottles made of this wine. So obviously everybody's chasing it. And you can see a clear-cut difference in color. In a vintage in '03 with the kind of style wine this is, this should be an absolute roller coaster, a big fruit bomb in Bordeaux. Let's give it a whirl. I've never had this wine. Right off the top, we're getting a really interesting shot of Christmas time. What do I mean by that? I'm getting real obvious peppermint flavors and an overriding eggnog flavor as well in the nose. Great black cherry and raspberry mixed in as well with that. So, maybe a Starbucks flavor that I've never had, which would be peppermint eggnog raspberry swirl, $6.49 for a cup like this. Starbucks, call me. It's really got that going on. It's a real roller coaster, huge fruit bomb. I mean, there's people that a little less experienced would even think that this is an Australian Shiraz fruit bomb. I mean, that's the kind of nose it's ringing. Let's give it a whirl. God, the nose is real. I mean, you smell it, huh? The nose is... Chris Mott is shaking his head because it's taking over the entire room. And there's some wines that just have that bouquet. And this is really awesome. This wine's been decanting for about 4 hours. Could probably use another 40 days. Tremendous tannins, but boy, does this deliver an enormous amount of fruit. Classic crushed raspberry and blueberry, like what is that? It's like a comp. What am I looking for? It's like a soup, like think of a beautiful raspberry blueberry soup. But it's a little thicker. I can't think of the word, but it's giving me that kind of flavor profile. Enormous silkiness on the finish. The heat, amazingly covered. 14.5, you barely taste it at all. Again, I'm getting that peppermint and almost like ginger flavor coming through on the palate, which is quite intriguing. However, not all fruit only. On the finish, from the mid-palate to the finish, a very obvious flavor of leather with a little bit of cow manure on it. So, leather boot, cowboy steps in the cow manure, takes it home, you look at it, you're curious, you see there's a little poop on it, you pick up the boot, you smell it, that kind of flavor, This wine's rocking. Again, I'm not the biggest fruit bomb lover of all time, so for me this is not it, but this wine you have to appreciate on the fact that it's giving you everything, the structure and the fruit. And so for that reason, I'm going to score this wine 95 plus. I think it's a wonderful effort. 200 bones, I think there's other things out there, but this is really screaming, and it's a tremendous bottle of Bordeaux. And sure enough, on an expense account, if you're out and you see it on the list, pop this. This is worth the experience. This is really a profound collector's wine. I mean, this is the kind of Bordeaux, let's call it what it is, that in 10, 15 years will be $400 a bottle. That's just what Bordeaux does. The worldwide demand, especially now more than ever. It's a great bottle of wine. I'm really attracted to the structure of it. The Merlot is real polished, beautiful effort. And really, compared to some of the Chateau Petrus and some of the Cheval Blancs, some of the other prices, but Cheval Blanc I know is mainly Cabernet Franc, is a real... I hate to say this, but this wine could almost be looked upon as a value if you put it in the right context. Okay, that's a lot of fun. I'm having fun. I've got a lot of wine to taste for work now, too, so it's going to be a long day for me. But I'm looking for some comments. Lurkers came out great. That pissed off thing really worked. I really appreciate it. It made my heart warm. So my question of the day today is, one, introduce yourself, because I'm in a reading mood tonight. And I'm really curious, a little pulse of what's going on out there. Here's my question for you. And we've asked this one before, but this is one of my favorites. What are you drinking tonight? Because you, it's a little bit of me, changing the wine world, aren't we?